There's a new boogeyman on the loose, and it goes by the name of wokeness. It took out our beloved holiday Cinco de Mayo. It took out an entire bridge. And now, it's coming for Hollywood.
What the?
Hello and welcome to What the Film. I'm your host Nathaniel. Let's get into it. If you haven't heard the phrase go woke, go broke, count yourself among the luckiest people alive. You are clearly not invested in the manufactured culture wars, and you are a better person for it. Go woke, go broke is the idea that businesses, i.e. Hollywood movie studios, will experience financial failures if they focus their efforts on diversity and inclusiveness. More simply and more crudely put, if people cast women or people of color or queer people in their movies, they will fail. My initial knee-jerk reaction to that is, huh? But let's examine how false this is intellectually. I'm sure the people racing to my comments to tell me how dumb and wrong I am are very open to facts and figures. In this video, we will be discussing how filmmaking is a global industry. We'll see how marketing works in the film industry. Then we'll take a look at the many commercial and critical successes that disprove this dumb phrase. Then by comparison, we'll take a look to see if we can find any non-woke failures. We'll also discuss what types of people graduate from liberal arts colleges. And lastly, we'll try and figure out where we can find some new stories. And before I go on, I'd like to note that I've said nothing political so far, and none of my talking points are political, so if you find yourself triggered, you might want to try some self-exploration before diving headfirst into my comments to call me a Sigma, cuck, soy boy, dingo, firefly, Frasier, Niles, Daphne. Oh, what was the dog? Did you know that America isn't the only country that makes movies? It turns out the whole world loves and makes movies. Heck, we even love each other's movies. I can't tell you how many Russian or Korean or Indian movies I've seen because I've lost count at this point. Heck, if you're watching this, I bet you've at least seen RRR or Train to Busan. Filmmaking is an international business. Filmmakers and studios alike know this. It's one of the reasons that big blockbusters tend to have at least one part of the movie that takes place in China, or at least features a famous Chinese actor. China is a really big international market. If you're a movie studio and you want to yield the biggest possible return on your investment, you'd be wise to ensure that at least some of your movies have international appeal. And a great, easy way to create that appeal is through representation, or people being able to see themselves on screen. It's a very basic, any film school dropout knows this type concept. It's the reason why kids shows feature kids, and shows for older generations feature older generations. Basically, it's why your grandpa loves Yellowstone and your dog loves Bluey. Now, if you're a studio trying to appeal to the Chinese market, that would mean putting Chinese people in your movie. Now, in America, Chinese people, or Chinese Americans, or all Asian Americans fall into the minority. And according to Go Woke, Go Broke, appealing to the minority is going woke. Thus, studios should be going broke. And yet, it seems marketing your movie to as many countries as possible is the best way to maximize your profits. You know, something any sniffly-nosed business major could tell you. But I get it, the goalposts are already being moved and they're saying, I ain't talking about no international movies, I'm talking about America. So fine. Why is this happening in America? What are movie studios even thinking? What, did they hire a bunch of college graduates to tell them they'd make more money if they put minorities in lead roles? Studios invest a lot of money into market research. One paper found that DreamWorks alone spent $4.9 million one year on research and development, and their R&D team, 310 people. Because the smartest way to make money with movies is to know what people want to see. This is information studios have before they've even considered buying a script. Some movie studios probably do market research on the person selling them the script. If you make a dozen or so multi-million-dollar movies a year, it's worth it to have a small staff of experts in the field of researching what's selling, because even if we're not talking internationally, the goal is still to try to appeal to as many demographics as possible in order to maximize profits. There's a reason so many writers complain about studios buying their screenplays and then turning it into something completely different. These changes aren't coming from a creative or artistic standpoint. These changes are being made according to what the research tells them will sell. It's not ideal for a creative field, but you can kind of understand their business point of view of doing whatever they can do to not only break even, but try and turn a hefty profit. There's not a person sitting in a dark room smoking cigarettes and checking to make sure that every movie ticks a certain number of boxes. There's no conspiracy out there to ruin all of your favorite movies by casting a woman sometimes. But there are scores of college-educated nerds analyzing statistics and developing algorithms to help studios make billions of dollars. And this is going to sound a little mean, but to think otherwise is pretty damn stupid. But really, just think about it. Think about how dumb it is to think that billion-dollar companies suddenly developed social consciences. The same billion-dollar companies that tried to replace actors with AI. The same billion-dollar companies that tried to starve out a union strike. You think these companies are following some sort of DEI mandate and aren't, I don't know, just trying to make $1 billion more? Fine, so they do a little bit of research, they collect a little bit of data. It's not like it's doing them any good, though. Clearly the data is wrong, right? I mean, it's not like any of these go woke movies were financial successes, right? I mean, it's not like any of them broke any records or anything. Right? Before I basically just list off a bunch of financially successful go woke films, there's something I want to clear up that I probably should have said in the beginning. This concept of judging movies by their box office totals is gross. The financial side of the industry should really remain the studio's concern. Let them worry about paying for their Oscar darlings with their tentpoles or whatever. Film is an art, and we, as the audience, should be judging film based on creativity and uniqueness and ability to entertain or tell a story. Saying something is the best because of how much money it makes doesn't really add up. Just because McDonald's makes billions of dollars slinging cheeseburgers doesn't make those the best cheeseburgers. Chopped onions? You fucking monsters. But it's go woke, go broke. Not go woke, become a critical success despite not making a lot of money. So let's take a look at some numbers, shall we? And we could start as early as 2 years ago with something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which brought in $140 million on a budget of $14 million and won an Academy Award. But I think we should start almost 20 years ago with a movie that was stoking the flames of culture wars long before people were review bombing movies they hadn't even seen yet. The year is 2005. The movie is Brokeback Mountain, the gayest cowboy movie since John Wayne sashayed across the silver screen. The director is Ang Lee, a departure from his usual more epic blockbustery movies. Brokeback Mountain was made with a relatively small budget of just $14 million and brought in $178 million. That studio went woke and made $164 million. Now let's jump forward just a few years to 2008. A movie is released that is loosely based on a book, and that movie blows open the doors in Hollywood for Indian actors. And that movie is Slumdog Millionaire, made with just a paltry budget of $15 million, and yet it brought in $378 million at the box office. Another solid investment. I hear you. Wow, 3 movies. That's not a lot. I bet you only have 1 or 2 more good examples. Well, I hate to disappoint, but I only have 5 more examples, actually. And the only reason that I'm stopping at a total of 8 is because this essay isn't supposed to be 30 minutes of me listing movies. The point is, I have receipts. Moving forward, let us not dwell on the past any longer as we jump forward to the year 2016. Here, we will find a little gem by the name of Moonlight. Moonlight tells the story of 2 black men struggling with their homosexuality as they grow up through harsh times. made with a small budget of just $1.5 million, and yet this Best Picture winner brought in $65 million at the box office. That's about a 4,000% return on investment. No one went broke there. The following year, 2017, a little indie film was released by the title Wonder Woman. And despite being a woman-led film, it went on to make $824 million at the box office. The following year, Black Panther was set loose on the world, and despite being a predominantly black cast, went on to make $1.3 billion worldwide, breaking the box office record for a movie featuring people of color. Jumping to 2019, we arrive at one of my favorite movies to throw in the face of incels, Captain Marvel. Yep, that Captain Marvel, the one that made $1.1 billion at the box office. Yes, billion with a B, that's billion with a brie. Say what you will about the quality of the movie, but it doesn't seem like anyone went broke with that one. Finally, we jump to 2023. Yeah, just last year. I saved the best for last with the highest grossing movie on my list. Coming in at a whopping $1.4 billion is the marketing masterpiece known as Barbie. Barbie, which was not only a women-led film, but also featured a storyline that had a pretty heavy-handed feminist bend, and yet, again, no one went broke. Not only were there some Oscar winners in there, but those movies also made quite a bit of money. But hey, those are just the successes, right? I mean, what about all the failures? It's a good question. What about all the failures? Have you ever heard of confirmation bias? It's not too complicated, but it's one of those concepts that can be tough to fully wrap your brain around sometimes, like the theory of relativity, or time travel paradoxes, or what technically counts as bestiality. Confirmation bias occurs when seeking out information that confirms pre-existing beliefs while ignoring opposing viewpoints. For example, you could be of the notion that there are more blue-colored cars than any other colored car in the world. To prove this point using confirmation bias, you would go out into the world and count only the blue-colored cars you see, and then use that number to justify your beliefs. An imperfect but far better approach would be to document every color car you see for about a month and then tally up all those numbers. At least with this approach, you aren't ignoring every other color car just to favor your pre-existing notion. Unsurprisingly, another example of confirmation bias would be starting with the premise that diverse films cause financial failures, and then only focusing on the failures to prove your point. Not only are you ignoring all of the financially successful diverse films out there, but you're also ignoring all of the non-woke movies that result in financial failure themselves. Movies such as The Mummy, which lost $60 million, or The Postman, which lost $70 million. The Band from U.N.C.L.E. lost $80 million, as did Blade Runner 2049. Speed Racer lost $88 million. R.I.P.D. lost $92 million. The Alamo lost $94 million. Transformers: The Last Knight lost $100 million. King Arthur lost $112 million. And The Flash lost $155 million. And those are just a few of the many movies that went broke while simultaneously not going woke. Almost as if there's no correlation between the two. Go woke. So stupid. Do you even know who makes movies in Hollywood? People talk like Hollywood has suddenly gone woke. Like commandments were handed down from on high, and now actors and filmmakers have to care about representation. Meanwhile, we're talking about people with liberal arts degrees? People who took classes in movement? People who at one point or another definitely did a photo session where they had tape over their mouths for some reason. In other words, these aren't people that you have to convince or arm twist to make diverse content. They've already got it locked and loaded. They're just waiting for the green light from studios. You can't really go woke if we're talking about the creative side. That's like saying, remember when George Lucas lost it? Lost what? I don't think he ever really had it. The point is, people who major in theater or creative writing are already woke. Therefore, most of Hollywood is already pretty damn woke, and has been for a little while. I think we've known this ever since McCarthyism and all that blacklisting. For those of you that don't like to eat a gummy and watch the History Channel, McCarthyism refers to the Second Red Scare of the 40s and 50s. The idea was that communism was infiltrating America through government employees and academics and the entertainment industry and so on and so on. As a result, many innocent Americans were blacklisted and some were even imprisoned. And before your brain tries to equate blacklisted with canceled, these weren't people that lost some followers and then went on to keep doing what they've always been doing. These were people that lost their careers and entire livelihoods were destroyed. And worse yet, it was all just a political smokescreen in an attempt to persecute left-wing idealists and labor union activists. All that to say McCarthyism really highlighted how left-leaning and liberal the creatives in Hollywood have always been. So, yeah, you can't really go woke if you already done been woke. You know that thing where you complain about movies all the goddamn time? Marvel just keeps reusing the same story. Everything is a reboot these days. All the movies I see are so samey and repetitive. I wonder where a wealth of new stories might be. Perhaps lying with people who have a different background and thus different stories to tell. Maybe people who are of a different gender, or a different race, or a different sexual orientation. So to be clear, it's go woke, go broke. I'm not giving studios any more money for these diverse stories. Also, I'm not giving studios any more money if they keep spoon-feeding me the same shit that I'm used to and I keep seeking out. That would almost be paradoxical if it wasn't just stupid. The solution isn't so much admitting you're wrong about go woke, go broke, and then finally caving and seeing these movies. The solution is admitting you've been lying to yourself and you've been buying tickets to see these movies because they're really freaking good. Simply put, you can't complain about a restaurant serving you the same food every day when you refuse to try anything new on the menu. And it is downright lunacy to complain when they make you something new and you still complain that you don't want new food, but you also don't want the food you've been having. I have friends with small children that are more reasonable than that. How can I put this nicely? Go woke, go broke is absolute horseshit. It is a dumb culture war phrase made popular by incels and Gamergate dildos. It has about as much basis in reality as my love life. She's real. She's from Canada, and she's in Canada. She's very Canadian like that. And her name is Bung Camera. Bung Camera. Shut up.